My sister clinked her champagne glass and smiled at the crowd. And here's to my little sister Emma, who's still figuring out her life at 32. The room laughed. Politely, of course. The way rich people laugh when they're being cruel, but want to seem charming. 150 guests in designer gowns turned to look at me. The caterer's sister. The family disappointment. The one who makes sandwiches for a living. My mother nodded along, sipping her wine, not defending me. Never defending me. Just that tight little smile she always wore when Victoria put me in my place. What none of them knew was that the sandwich shop they'd been mocking for 7 years had just been valued at $28 million. And the company trying to buy it? It was owned by the man my sister was desperately trying to impress tonight. But nobody at that party had any idea. Not yet, but let me start from the beginning. My name is Emma Chen. I'm 32 years old, and according to my family, I'm the embarrassing secret they wish they could hide in a closet and forget about. My sister Victoria is 36, 4 years older, and roughly 400 years more arrogant. She's a corporate attorney at a prestigious firm in Manhattan, 6-figure salary, corner office with a view of Central Park, designer everything, down to her toothbrush holder. She's been my mother's favorite since the day she was born. Literally. There are more photos of Victoria's first year than my entire childhood combined. I counted once. 247 to 31. Growing up, every dinner conversation was about Victoria, Victoria's grades, Victoria's swim meets, Victoria's early acceptance to Columbia, Victoria's first internship at a law firm. And me? Emma, eat your vegetables. That was usually the extent of my parents' interest in my existence. I was always the other daughter, the quiet one, the one who didn't get into an Ivy League school, the one who dropped out of college after 2 years because I hated sitting in lecture halls learning about things that didn't matter to me. My mother still brings up that decision at every single family gathering. 7 years later, and she's still mourning my wasted potential. You could have been something, Emma. You had options, and you threw them all away to play restaurant. Here's what my family doesn't know. I own Greenleaf Kitchen. Not work at, own. Every share, every decision, every penny of profit. What started as a tiny sandwich shop in a Brooklyn basement 7 years ago is now a chain of 34 fast casual restaurants across the Northeast. We specialize in healthy, sustainable, locally sourced meals. Farm-to-table ingredients, recipes I developed myself, including my grandmother's focaccia bread that people drive hours to taste. Last year's revenue? $47 million. Net profit? $8.2 million. Employees, 612 people across 6 states. We've been featured in Forbes, Fast Company, and the New York Times. I was on the cover of Restaurant Business magazine 6 months ago. The headline was, "The Quiet Revolutionary Changing How America Eats." But to my family, I'm still just Emma, the college dropout who makes sandwiches. I never corrected them. Part of me wanted to see if they'd ever ask, if they'd ever be curious about my life instead of just dismissing it, if they'd ever Google my name or walk into one of my restaurants that are literally all over Manhattan. They never did. Not once in 7 years. My mother lives 12 blocks from our Midtown location. She's never been inside. She walks past it every day on her way to her hair salon. Victoria works 3 buildings away from our financial district restaurant. 400 of her colleagues eat there weekly. She's never set foot in the door. They weren't just ignoring my success. They were actively refusing to see it. Victoria's engagement party was supposed to be her crowning achievement. She was marrying Daniel Hayes, old money, Harvard Law, family compound in the Hamptons. The kind of man my mother had been praying Victoria would find since she was 5 years old and won her first spelling bee. The party was at the Wellington Club, Manhattan's most exclusive private club. The kind of place where membership costs $200,000 a year, and there's still a 10-year waiting list. Victoria called me 2 weeks before the party. Not to invite me, of course. I'd already received the formal invitation. She called to give me instructions. "Emma, I need you to be there, but please don't talk about your job." Her voice had that tone, the one that made me feel 12 years old again. Daniel's family is very accomplished. His mother is on the board of 3 museums. I don't want them knowing my sister makes sandwiches for a living. Makes sandwiches. I should have said no. I should have told her exactly what she could do with her instruction-laden invitation. But she's my sister, and some stupid, stubborn part of me still loves her. Still remembers when we were kids and she'd let me sleep in her bed during thunderstorms, before she decided I was competition instead of family. So I went. I wore a simple black dress, not too fancy because Victoria would accuse me of trying to upstage her, not too casual because then I'd be embarrassing the family in front of important people. There's no winning with my family. I learned that a long time ago. The game is rigged. The rules change whenever I'm close to following them. The Wellington Club was exactly what I expected. Crystal chandeliers the size of small cars. Gold trim on everything that could possibly hold gold trim. The kind of aggressive, desperate wealth that screams, "Please be impressed by how much money we have." My restaurants are worth more than most of the people in that room. But I was the one who didn't belong. I was scanning a room for the bar because I was definitely going to need alcohol to survive this night when I spotted him. A man in his 60s standing by the window. Silver hair. Kind eyes. Expensive suit that somehow didn't look like he was trying too hard. I recognized him immediately. Richard Blackwell. Founder and CEO of Blackwell Hospitality Group, the company that had been trying to acquire Greenleaf Kitchen for the past 8 months. What was he doing at my sister's engagement party? Before I could process this, Victoria materialized beside me like a designer-dressed shark who'd sensed blood in the water. "Emma, you're lurking. Try not to lurk in corners all night. It makes you look weird and antisocial. And remember, don't mention the sandwich thing. Not to anyone." She swept away to greet more important guests before I could respond. I found the bar. Ordered a whiskey neat because wine felt too delicate for this kind of night. The bartender raised an eyebrow approvingly. That's when I felt a tap on my shoulder. Richard Blackwell was standing behind me, smiling warmly, like we were old friends. "Emma Chen," he said. "I was hoping I'd run into you tonight." My heart stopped. How did he know I'd be here? "Mr. Blackwell," I said carefully, keeping my voice neutral, "I didn't expect to see you at this event." He chuckled. "Daniel Hayes is my godson. I've known him since he was in diapers. Small world, isn't it?" Victoria's perfect fiancé was Richard Blackwell's godson. The same Richard Blackwell who'd offered me $28 million for my company last month. The same offer I'd politely but firmly declined. "I'd love to discuss your decision," Richard said quietly, leaning in so no one else could hear. "My offer still stands. In fact, I've been authorized by my board to increase it substantially." "How substantially?" $35 million? Cash. You'd stay on as CEO for 3 years minimum. Before I could respond, my mother appeared out of nowhere, like she had radar for any conversation that might be interesting. "Emma, who's your friend?" Her eyes were already scanning Richard, calculating his worth, his status, his usefulness to her social climbing. "Mom, this is Richard Blackwell." My mother's face transformed. Even she knew that name. Richard Blackwell was a legend. His hospitality group owned over 200 restaurants and hotels worldwide. He'd been on the cover of Fortune magazine twice. "Mr. Blackwell," My mother's voice went up an octave into her impressed by wealth register. What an absolute honor. How on earth do you know my daughter? Richard smiled pleasantly. I've been trying to acquire her company for the past 8 months. My mother's champagne glass tilted dangerously. Wine dripped onto her $800 shoes, but she didn't even notice. Her company? Greenleaf Kitchen, Richard said, clearly enjoying this moment. 34 locations across 6 states, $47 million in revenue last year. One of the most impressive fast casual restaurant concepts I've seen in my entire career. And I've been in this business for 40 years. He turned to me. I'm prepared to offer $35 million now. Final offer. Think about it seriously this time. He walked away to greet other guests, leaving my mother standing there like a statue. My mother stood frozen, her mouth opening and closing like a fish that had just been told the ocean was actually made of champagne. Emma, what is he talking about? $47 million? That's not... You make sandwiches. Before I could answer, Victoria's voice rang out across the room like a perfectly manicured alarm. Everyone, can I have your attention, please? The crowd gathered around her obediently. Victoria was glowing, champagne in hand, Daniel's arm around her waist, the very picture of successful womanhood. I want to thank everyone for being here tonight to celebrate our engagement. She looked around the room until her eyes landed on me. And that's when she decided it was time to remind everyone of my place in the family hierarchy. And here's to my little sister Emma, who's still figuring out her life at 32. The polite laughter rippled through the crowd like poison. Victoria wasn't done. She never was. Emma's been making sandwiches for years now. Maybe one day she'll figure out what she really wants to do with her life. But until then, at least she can cater my wedding for free. More laughter. Louder this time. 150 people laughing at my expense. My mother was laughing too, despite what Richard Blackwell had just told her 30 seconds ago. Despite everything. She chose Victoria's narrative. She always chose Victoria. Something in me snapped. Not broke, snapped, like a rubber band that had been stretched too far for too many years. Actually, I said, loudly enough for every person in that crystal chandeliered room to hear. The laughter died instantly. I walked toward the center of the room. My heart was pounding against my ribs, but my voice came out steady as steel. I think there's been some confusion about what I do for a living. Victoria rolled her eyes dramatically. Emma, please don't make this night about you. 7 years ago, I opened a small restaurant in Brooklyn. You called it Emma's Little Sandwich Phase. You told everyone I'd fail within a year and come crawling back to ask for money. That restaurant is now a chain of 34 locations across 6 states. Murmurs rippled through the crowd like an earthquake. Last year, my company generated $47 million in revenue. We employ over 600 people. We've created hundreds of jobs and communities that needed them. Victoria's smile had frozen solid on her face, like someone had pressed pause on her entire existence. I've been featured in Forbes, Fast Company, and the New York Times. I was on the cover of Restaurant Business magazine. I've won 2 James Beard Award nominations. I looked at my mother. You never asked. Not once in 7 years did you ask a single question about my business, my life, my dreams, my struggles. You just assumed I was failing because I didn't take the path you wanted me to take. Richard Blackwell stepped forward from the crowd, a smile playing on his lips. If I may add something, he said pleasantly, I've just offered Emma $35 million for her company. She's already turned down my previous offer of $28 million because she believes the company is worth more. He smiled at Victoria. She's absolutely right, by the way. It's probably worth closer to $45 million in the right market conditions. The silence in that ballroom was so complete, I could hear the ice shifting in someone's glass across the room. Victoria's face had cycled through white, then red, then a shade of purple I'd never seen on a human being before. "This is my engagement party," she hissed, her voice cracking. "You're doing this deliberately to humiliate me." "No, Victoria. I'm doing this because you humiliated me. Again. In front of everyone here. Like you've been doing my entire life. I spent 7 years waiting for my family to see me, to ask one single question about my life, to show any interest in who I am beyond being your disappointing little sister. You never did." I turned to the crowd. "I'm sorry to have disrupted this lovely party. Please, continue celebrating." I walked toward the door. "Emma, wait!" It was Daniel, Victoria's fiancé. He was walking toward me with an expression I couldn't quite read. "I've eaten at your restaurant," he said quietly. "The one in Midtown. Many times, actually. At least once a week." I stared at him. "The mushroom risotto is incredible." He smiled awkwardly. "I recommend it to everyone. I had absolutely no idea you were Victoria's sister." He turned back to look at Victoria. Something shifted in his face. Recognition, maybe, of who she really was. "I think," he said slowly, "there are some things I need to understand about this family." Victoria's carefully constructed mask crumpled like wet paper. I left. Before we continue, I want to thank you for being here with me. If you're enjoying this story, please hit subscribe and leave a comment telling me where you're watching from. I read every single comment, and they truly mean the world to me. Now, back to the story. The aftermath was messier than I expected, but also more satisfying. Victoria called me 17 times the night of the party. I watched each call come in and let them all go to voicemail. Her messages ranged from furious to sobbing to threatening to bargaining. "How could you do this to me? You ruined everything. Daniel is asking questions about our family. Call me back right now. This is all your fault." My mother called once, left a 3-minute voicemail that somehow managed to blame me for everything while never once acknowledging what Victoria had said or done. "You know how your sister is," she said. "She didn't mean anything by it. She was just nervous about the party. You didn't have to embarrass her like that in front of everyone important." Not, "I'm sorry she said those things." Not, "I should have defended you." Just, "How dare you embarrass Victoria." I deleted it without responding. Daniel Hayes called me 2 days later. "I've been doing some research," he said carefully. "About Greenleaf Kitchen. About your career. About the things your family has said about you versus what's actually true. And I think I've been seeing a very carefully edited version of your family for the past 2 years." He was quiet for a moment. "Victoria talks about you sometimes, always dismissively, always with this tone like you're a burden she has to manage. My poor sister who never did anything with her life, the family disappointment who plays with food. I never questioned it. I should have. I should have asked more questions about a lot of things." "What are you going to do?" I asked. He sighed heavily. "I'm postponing the wedding. Indefinitely." I wasn't expecting that. Not because of you, he clarified quickly. Because of what that night showed me about Victoria. The way she talks about people she considers beneath her. The way she treats her own sister. The way she lies without even realizing she's lying. I've been ignoring red flags for months, small cruelties I explained away. Your speech at the party just finally made me see them clearly. 3 weeks later, Daniel officially ended the engagement. Victoria blamed me, of course. Sent me a 2,000-word email detailing exactly how I'd destroyed her life, her happiness, her future, her chance at the life she deserved. I didn't respond. Some things don't deserve responses. My mother called to inform me I was no longer welcome at family events. "Until you apologize to your sister for what you did," she said coldly, "you're not part of this family." That one hurt. I won't pretend it didn't. 32 years of trying to earn their love, and this was the result. But I realized something important that night. I'd been part of a family that never actually saw me. Being excluded from that wasn't really a punishment. It was freedom. Freedom I should have claimed years ago. Richard Blackwell invited me to lunch a week later. "I'm raising my offer to $40 million, he said over sushi at Nobu, "and that's my final offer. I mean it this time." I smiled. "I appreciate it, Richard. I really do. But I'm not selling." He raised an eyebrow but didn't look surprised. "Greenleaf Kitchen is mine," I said. "I built it from nothing. Every recipe, every location, every relationship with every farmer and supplier, that's my life's work. That's who I am. I don't want to hand it over to someone else. I want to see how far I can take it myself." Richard laughed warmly, actually laughed. "That's exactly what I would have said at your age." He raised his glass. "To building empires, then. The right way. To building empires." That was 6 months ago. Today, Greenleaf Kitchen has 41 locations. We're expanding into the Midwest next year. We just launched a line of packaged products in Whole Foods nationwide. Forbes put me on their 30 under 40 list of most innovative restaurateurs. We just signed a deal to open our first international location in London. Victoria is still single, still working at her law firm, still telling anyone who'll listen that I got lucky, that it won't last, that I'll come crawling back eventually. My mother still hasn't apologized. I don't think she knows how. I don't think she ever will. But here's the thing I finally learned. Some people will never see your worth. Not because you're worthless, but because they've already decided who you are and they refuse to update that story. My family decided I was the failure when I was 17 years old. No amount of success was ever going to change that narrative in their heads. So I stopped trying to change it. I built my own story instead, with my own characters, my own definition of success, my own family. Last week, I had dinner with my team to celebrate our expansion announcement. 43 people gathered in our flagship Brooklyn location after hours. Cooks, managers, marketing staff, the farmers who supply our produce. The people who actually built this company alongside me. My operations director made a toast. "To Emma," she said, raising her glass, "who gave me a chance when no one else would, who built something real and meaningful, who proves every single day that hard work, good food, and treating people with respect can change the world." Everyone cheered. Someone started a chant of my name. I pretended to be embarrassed, but I wasn't. I looked around the room at these faces, these people who'd chosen to follow me, who believed in my vision when my own family couldn't be bothered to ask what it was. This was my family now. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Saw the Forbes article. Congratulations. Maybe I was wrong about a lot of things. Dad." My father, who'd been silent through every family dinner, every dismissive comment, every cruel joke at my expense, who'd let my mother and Victoria control the family narrative for my entire life. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed back, "Thanks. Let me know if you want to have lunch sometime. Just you and me." It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. But it was a door left slightly open. Some people spend their whole lives trying to earn their family's approval. I spent 7 years building something incredible while my family wasn't watching. And when they finally looked up from their own reflections, they realized they'd missed everything. Victoria called me the sandwich sister, like it was an insult. I turned sandwiches into a $45 million empire. Turns out, being underestimated is a superpower, if you know how to use it. I'm writing this from my office above our original Brooklyn location. It's 6 a.m. I can smell the bread baking downstairs. Fresh rosemary focaccia, my grandmother's recipe. The same recipe my mother said was too simple to ever be special. In an hour, my team will arrive. We'll prep for the lunch rush. We'll feed a few hundred people meals made with love and real ingredients. Tomorrow, I'm flying to Chicago to sign the lease on 4 new locations. Next month, I'm speaking at a women's entrepreneur conference about building a company from nothing but determination and good food. My sister still thinks I just make sandwiches. She's right. I make really, really good sandwiches. And I turned them into everything. Thank you so much for watching. I hope Emma's story resonated with you. If your family has ever made you feel small, know that their limited vision of you isn't the truth. You get to write your own story. You get to decide what success means. More of my most powerful stories are on your screen right now. Click one and keep watching. I promise you won't regret it. See you in the next video.